The Children of the Planets is a remarkably long-lived and influential genre of medieval, Renaissance, and early modern art that vividly illustrates the interplay between the celestial forces above and daily life down here on Earth. Rooted in the astrological and natural philosophical traditions of late antiquity, it developed over centuries into a didactic, artistic tradition informed by the reception of texts like Ptolemy's Tetrabiblos, Abu Mashar's Great Introduction to Astrology, Alcabitius's Introduction to Astrology, and at times, even astromagical descriptions contained in works like the Picatrix. Its imagery gives us a window into a wildly analogical and correlative worldview, wherein the 7 classical planets, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, and the Moon, govern human temperaments, professions, and activities through their spirits, intelligences, and celestial dominions. Ultimately, the images and archetypes depicted as the children of the planets owe their development to a synthesis of Babylonian, Egyptian, Greek, Roman, Persian, Indian, and Arabic astrological scholarship, presented through the medium of medieval European and other artistic traditions, underscoring the genre's transcultural and transtemporal origins and expressions. Medieval and Renaissance cosmology, shaped in part by a fusion of Aristotelian, pseudo-Aristotelian, Ptolemaic, Hermetic, and Neoplatonic ideas, viewed the planets not as rocks and balls of gas hurtling through space, but as luminous, willful mediators between the divine and the terrestrial, noetically bridging the gap between the ineffable and unchanging spiritual realm of the One or the Supreme God and the mundane, material, and mutable realm of earthly existence. Depictions of the children of the planets portray each planet as a personified celestial ruler presiding over their respective children, that is, the people who engage in the earthly activities influenced by the planet's attributes. Like cosmic filing cabinets of curiosities, these works, whether illuminated in manuscripts, engraved in wood, or carved in stone, often served as visual and intellectual tools to teach cosmological order, moral allegory, and the interconnectedness of all creation. So let's take a look at some examples from Baccio Baldini, Girolamo Grandi, and Harman Jans Müller to George Pence, Jan Bruegel the Younger and Elder, Johannes Sadler, and many other anonymous manuscript artists, beginning with the outermost planet in the Chaldean order. Saturn, the leaden judge of melancholic mortality. Saturn governs the cold and dry, embodying melancholy, labor, toil, and death. The Picatrix tells us he governs profound knowledge, the science of law, the search for causes, effects, and the origin of things, the utterance of magical words, and the knowledge of deep and occult properties. He rules over the deep places of the earth and the heights of heaven, a kind of depth of its own. These include black mountains, murky rivers, deep wells, ditches, and desert places. Illuminations and woodcuts often depict him as a stooped old man with a crutch or a peg leg, holding a scythe in hand, evoking the inexorable passage of time, la longue durée, and the harvest of human life. Over time, this rustic figure gradually became reconnected with the image of the Greek god Kronos, but this was the product of a later syncretism arising during the Renaissance. The image of Saturn in the Middle Ages was predominantly that of a crippled farmer, not the father of Zeus, infamous for castrating his father and devouring his children. These pitiable, dark, and austere depictions reflect Saturn's dominion over hardship, decline, and limitations, often set in barren, wintry landscapes. The children of Saturn, too, are farmers toiling in desolate fields, gravediggers handling the dead, hermits withdrawing into solitude, and scholars into their studies. They are prisoners locked up in stocks and chains, the disabled impoverished on account of their physical deformities, and other social outcasts like Jews, lepers, and exiles. These representations align with Saturn's associations with agriculture, deep and desolate places, genius born of suffering, mastery over esoteric knowledge, and the cold, hard limitations that plague human life. Albrecht Dürer's Melancholia I is another notable example of this, depicting an angel who, despite having all the tools at his or her disposal, is lost in deep thought or paralysis by analysis, unable to produce anything of worth. Here, Saturn's influence, leaden, cold, dark, and enduring, also governs activities requiring patience, perseverance, and contemplation, such as mining, metallurgy, construction, and scholarship. Illuminated manuscripts and woodcuts frequently juxtapose Saturn's children with tools of labor or death, reinforcing his ties to material toil and the all-consuming nature of time. Now, all these planetary depictions also carry moral undertones. The medieval world was a moral universe, woven through with lessons and exhortations by the good to follow the good in all things. Saturn's imagery, for example, served to remind onlookers of life's transience, of human limitations, and the need for humility, while Venus's scenes, on the other hand, celebrated love and beauty, tempered with caution against overindulgence. Like Aesop's fables, or a stained glass window in a church illustrating Christ's parables, each depiction of the planets and their children also carried a moral message to edify and educate the literate and illiterate alike, so we should take this into consideration while exploring the genre. Jupiter, the Emerald King of jovial abundance. Where Saturn symbolizes contraction, restriction, and limitation, Jupiter symbolizes expansion, governing prosperity, justice, largesse, and leadership. The Picatrix tells us he governs wisdom, law, jurisprudence, philosophy, and the interpretation of dreams. Rituals under Jupiter's domain are typically designed to attract honor, wealth, and the favor of the powerful, aligning with his celestial role as a bringer of good fortune. In his depictions, he's portrayed as a regal, magnanimous figure, often seated on a throne, holding a scepter, a book, or a thunderbolt, and surrounded by all his fineries and symbols of wealth and power, like his eagles and his trusty cupbearer, Ganymede. His imagery suggests divine favor and the orderly distribution of resources and authority. The children of Jupiter include kings dispensing justice, priests conducting ceremonies, and scholars engaging in philosophical inquiry. Jupiter's influence is described as beneficent, fostering growth, harmony, and social cohesion. Depictions of Jupiter's children frequently emphasize scenes of law-giving, public worship, intellectual discourse, ecclesiastical hierarchies, and the courts of noblemen, showcasing the planet's role in cultivating not only social hierarchies, but spiritual order too. These images present Jupiter's rulership as a stabilizing and enriching force, guiding humanity towards wisdom and prosperity. Morally speaking, his imagery suggests that just and benevolent leadership leads to prosperity not only for individuals, but for society as a whole. It emphasizes the moral responsibility of those in power to ensure the well-being of their subjects. Jupiter's children, particularly jurists, scholars, and philosophers, represent the necessity of wisdom in governance. The inclusion of intellectual pursuits in his imagery reminds viewers that leadership is not merely about wielding power, but also about cultivating knowledge and foresight. Mars, the brazen lord of fiery war. Mars governs the hot and dry, symbolizing aggression, courage, and destruction. He's often depicted as a fierce warrior clad in armor, wielding a sword or a spear, his fiery nature reflected in scenes of battle, siege, hunting, plunder, and bloodshed. His imagery underscores his dual role as both a destroyer and a protector. The Picatrix tells us he rules over surgeons, hunters, and all those who spill or draw blood. His rituals emphasize protection, victory in combat, domination over wild animals, and the resolution of conflicts, highlighting his dynamic role as both instigator and resolver of strife. Mars's children are predators devouring their prey, pitiless soldiers fighting on the battlefield, charging knights with long, keen lances, blacksmiths forging weapons of war, and executioners administering justice through force. He governs war, physical strength, and decisive action. Mars's children are shown in forceful, often brutally violent compositions, their actions framed by the smoke and flames of burning houses. These images reflect the volatile power of Mars and illustrate the necessity of courage, strength, and decisive, ruthless action in overcoming life's adversities. While on the one hand, Mars represents the heroic aspects of war, his imagery also frequently includes destruction and suffering, such as bloodshed on the battlefield or the grim duties of those charged with administering punishment. This duality serves as a cautionary tale, reminding viewers of the human cost of violence and the need to temper aggression with justice and wisdom. Mars's imagery often reflects the belief that force is sometimes essential for maintaining justice and societal order. The tools and weapons crafted by blacksmiths signify the importance of channeling raw energy into productive and disciplined forms, suggesting that unbridled force, while powerful, must be directed constructively to achieve positive outcomes. On a moral level, his images also expose the dangers of impulsive or excessive aggression, encouraging viewers to balance courage with restraint, finding the golden mean somewhere between recklessness and cowardice. Sol, the golden governor of generative power. The sun embodies heat, light, generation, vigor, and vitality, governing leadership, health, and creativity. He is depicted as a radiant king or nobleman, and in later compositions as the youthful god Apollo himself, crowned with light and surrounded by symbols of power and glory. His celestial influence is central to maintaining balance and order in the cosmos. In the Picatrix, he governs an aspect of philosophy, divination, and law, as well as the courts of kings and great cities. The sun is a source of illumination and clarity, governing rituals that enhance honor, vitality, wealth, and personal success. The children of the sun include rulers presiding over their courts, kings giving commands, musicians, acrobats, fencers, and wrestlers performing before audiences, and healers tending to the sick. His children are typically depicted in settings of celebration and ceremony, like the coronations of kings and noble knights swearing fealty, their activities imbued with Apollonian, life-affirming energy. Artistic representations emphasize the sun's role as a unifier and sustainer, with his children's actions reflecting the harmonious interplay of authority and leadership. While the sun symbolizes rightful authority along with Jupiter, his radiant imagery also serves as a subtle caution against the dangers of excessive pride, arrogance, and the abuse of power. The sun's brilliance can illuminate, but it can also blind, burn, and blot out with brightness, reminding onlookers that unchecked ambition or arrogance can lead to imbalance, societal discord, and a kind of darkness all of its own. Venus, the copper queen of joyful love. Venus governs the warm and the moist, and signifies beauty, love, harmony, and the sensual pleasures of this world. She is portrayed as an alluring young woman, the Cyprian Aphrodite, often accompanied by Cupid, Eros or Desire, and surrounded by lavish courtyards, baths, mirrors, flowers, fountains, lovers, lechers, gamers, and musicians. Her imagery reflecting sensuality, taste, and aesthetic refinement. In Picatrix, she rules over metrical poetry, music, art, brothels, beautiful women, and places of merriment, food, and drink. Her rituals seek to enhance relationships, to erotically bind, and to bring pleasure and peace. In the Children of the Planets imagery, Venus's children are shown amidst lush gardens or elegant interiors, their activities celebrating the sensual pleasures of life. Her children include lovers engaged in every phase of courtship, poets composing verses, men and women relaxing in public baths, and artists crafting works of great beauty. As mentioned earlier, her imagery often includes subtle warnings against overindulgence. Depictions of Venus's children engaging in unbridled revelry, lost in vain and narcissistic self-absorption, or adorned in excessive finery, caution viewers to temper desire with moderation and to avoid allowing beauty and pleasure to overshadow deeper virtues. Mercury, the quicksilver herald of divine knowledge. The wild card, the iridescent, mutable, and neutral, governs intellect, skill, communication, craft, and commerce. He is often depicted as the Greek god Hermes, a youthful figure with winged sandals, or Caduceus, symbolizing speed and adaptability, but sometimes he is a physician or scholar, with an astrolabe and a uroscopy instrument in his hands and a book on his lap. In Picatrix, he governs trade and merchandise, the sciences, the liberal and mechanical arts, and all realms of knowledge discovered by means of a subtle and innate talent. As a mediator of wisdom and cunning, his rituals focus on eloquence, communication, negotiation, invention, dream divination, and any kind of serious thinking involving numbers, writing, or study. Mercury's children include craftsmen honing their skills, merchants conducting trade and keeping records, scribes documenting knowledge, and travelers navigating distant lands. Artistic depictions often show Mercury's children in bustling marketplaces, workshops, libraries, or classrooms. These images celebrate Mercury's versatility, illustrating his ability to bridge gaps, cross boundaries, and foster progress through intellect and ingenuity. They underscore the importance of acquiring and sharing knowledge as a means of personal growth and societal advancement. On a moral level, while Mercury represents intellect and cunning, his images also caution against the misuse of these qualities. The thieves, hucksters, tricksters, quacks, and charlatans among Mercury's children serve as reminders that we should use our wits ethically and avoid manipulation or dishonesty. Luna, the silver matron of change. The moon governs the cold and moist, symbolizing intuition, the cycles of life, and nurturing. She is depicted as serene, sometimes a young Diana, sometimes a matronly figure associated with children, fishermen, water, night, and mystery. In Picatrix, she rules over magic, arithmetic and geometry, weights and measures, the gathering of rivers into lakes, seas, and oceans, ancient paganism, tanning, coin minting, and sailing. She is said to receive the power of the other planets and to pour them down into this world. She governs fertility, or the natural power, and her rituals often focus on healing, protection, the improvement of memory, and the growth of crops. The children of the moon include phlegmatics, mules, asses and water birds, sailors navigating the seas, midwives assisting women in labor, children playing games, and dreamers exploring their inner worlds. The children of the moon are often portrayed in nocturnal or aquatic settings, not only cold and wet, but imbued with a great sense of mystery in regards to the flux of generation and corruption. The moon's ever-changing nature also carries a cautionary message. Her association with tides, dreams, and emotions warns against becoming overly influenced by fleeting feelings or deceptive appearances. Her children's activities, such as navigating uncertain waters, reminds onlookers of the need to balance intuition with discernment. Since the moon governs natural rhythms, from the tides to the phases of life, her imagery also serves as a reminder of the cyclical nature of existence, encouraging an acceptance of new beginnings as an integral part of human, animal, and vegetable existence. The Children of the Planets genre presents us with what C.S. Lewis famously called a discarded image, that is, a vivid vision of the cosmos blending natural philosophy, moral instruction, and magical thinking. Seamlessly incorporating insights from Ptolemy, Abu Mashar, Alcubitius, and even works of astrological magic, these artistic depictions forcefully articulate the medieval and Renaissance worldview of humanity's place within a divinely ordered universe, a cosmos wherein, to use the ancient aphorism of Anaxagoras, everything exists in everything in its own way. By illustrating the celestial forces inherent to earthly life, the children of the planets offer us a profound testament to the enduring human quest to find meaning in something bigger than ourselves, something up there, among the stars. Now, my closing word is this. To contemporary artists, this tradition calls for renewal. The children of the planets invite you to reimagine these celestial archetypes for a modern world, to carry on the torch of depicting their timeless themes in today's artistic languages. Whether through painting, literature, digital art, music, memes, or film, this time-honored tradition offers endless opportunities to explore the relationship between humanity and the cosmos. This could be as simple as coloring in some of the old woodcuts and publishing them to shine new light on old forms. So come celebrate the melancholy of Saturn, the wisdom of Jupiter, the courage of Mars, the vitality of the Sun, the beauty of Venus, the ingenuity of Mercury, and the mystery of the Moon. Take up the scythe, the scepter, the sword, the arrow, the caduceus, and the crescent, and craft us some new images that keep this tradition alive in the human imagination. If you would like to support more work such as this, please visit patreon.com/themodernhermeticist. And above all, thank you for watching.